Okay, go ahead. So question period. Anyone has a question? If not, I
guess I'm gonna start. It's okay?
Yes, go ahead. Well,
all right.
Annie, you will manage the questions.
All right, sure, Annie. I could do this.
Okay.
Moderator.
Well, actually, I was very interested in the beginning when Roderick was talking about you know, that the blade have a bad impact in terms of environment, I guess, and in terms of social impact, I guess. But if you work as what's his name right after, not Ricardo, Roderick, actually, yeah, he was talking about the native area and why, we understand, everybody understand that there is so many space and the most of the wind is present in these areas. For example, in north of Quebec, the best point for the maximum wind, it's Wamash2, it's Kujarapik, and everybody knows that, and they want to have a big plan of wind blades and things like that. But the thing is, we have a problem because the people who you are going to meet, they don't know about that. And do they have the capacity to understand all the technical things that you're talking about and trusting because they had before contact with these people? So I think there is something here very important to put in consideration, because those people, when you bring a project like that, it's a huge, all your technical stuff. So what is your way to get these people to understand this? Because we're bringing some technology to somebody, it's like you're explaining something different to different culture, different way to understand things. So I think this is a big challenge. So my first question is how you going to bring this to the people as a native. For example, I'm talking about native because the most of these people, native or not, the people who are living far, they are a little bit in the retreatment, considering to the what technology and things like that. So this is my first question to Roderick. I don't know if it's clear, Roderick, but this is, do you have a plan? Do you have a way? Did you think about it? How are you going to talk to these people? How are you going to bring this to these people? You have to make it very simple, and you have to make it easy, because the first contact is the most important. And if they are afraid, you forget the project. So for me, if you don't get there, project in places like that, it's completely lost. So this for me, it's the key to start anything. So it's why I was interested in the beginning when you start with that. This is very important, and you're right. I don't know if you should go with the other questions or it's like that, Annie.
Maybe we
could start with it.
Oh, sorry.
It's Annie. You said Annie. Come on.
So, yeah, basically, from what we learn is that it's better to respect their hierarchy. So they have like their chief, and then they have the secretary in their population. So I think it's really important to talk to their chief first and try to explain it as a non-technical, if I would say, like to start as simple and go more complicated after, to make sure they understand everything. And once their government, if I can call it that, I don't know, I'm not sure, their council has accepted or understands the project, now then you can go through them to educate the rest of their community. And then, like, it's a slow process, right? Because they don't really know anything about, but I think it's really important at the beginning to make sure that they understand. And I think it's important to talk differently to the community than you talk to the chief, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. You will make a good communicator, my friend. That's it. This is it.
Would it be possible to have someone from the native community as a consultant in the team, as maybe not beginning, but when it starts to become something real, to have someone from the community in the team so that the message and everything could be tainted with what they're saying, and making sure that the message to everyone is clearer than just if someone else from the outside comes in, to have someone from the community in the team first. And then I'm not sure, I'm asking, but I'm not sure if the natives are available for that kind of teamwork.
Yeah, well, what Gascapedia, the Mi'kmaq there, and also Gaspeg, I think was the other one. They created a company built by native people of the native community. They're more on the management side, if I would say. And what they do, those company works with hydro, and then they're the point between hydro and the chief, and they take part of the profit and they reinvest it inside the community. So this company, because it's a company that is protected from taxes technically, and this company is really the point of contact between hydro and the chief and the rest of the community.
But I just want to add what Sophie said is very important, Roderick, because even if you don't bring somebody, you have to work within the community. Because it's very important that this contact is very important. As soon as they feel they are not concerned, it's something problem started. So I think it's very important to bring somebody if it's possible, because she's right on that point. You will find somebody in environment, in wherever domain could be connected to this project. But in terms it has to be within the community definitively, and if not, for sure, starting little problems here and there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's perfect. You said you have also another question, Youssef?
Yes, absolutely. To Ricardo, is this necessary? He was talking. Let me just come back to my idea, because oh yeah, he was talking about the coast. Ricardo, you're talking about a lot of coast and how you try to bring this down. But honestly, this is one of the problems that we had to think about it when we start this project in the north, is at the end of the story, you end up that the project and the use of the wind energy, it's become less expensive anyway. Wherever the way you gotta put it at the end of the story and several years after, definitively it's gonna be less expensive. So is it necessary to put energy to bring the cost that low? I think this is something that we have to think in the future, because if we depend the project just on the coast, and honestly, everybody, that there is investment made by the government, and you can have help here and there to do the green energy. So the cost, is it that important? I'm going to let you answer because I don't know. To make it clear, the cost, I know that if you have 2 or 3 machines like that, how do you call them? I'm just saying wind energy because I don't know the blades. Not the blades. It's not the word. The whole thing.
It's wind turbines.
Merci. Wind turbines. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you very much. So, if is it necessary to think, or well, we have to think about the coast for sure, but is it necessary to put that much energy to bring it down? If we can put more money and get something very clean and get something that satisfies everybody.
Yeah. No, we think really the best scenario. Oh, sorry, I'm on mute.
Yeah.
I think the best scenario is to use some monitoring technologies for doing that. The way that I was putting is just to compare scenarios. So I presented a scenario with trying to show why companies, they don't do monitoring, and one of the reasons we saw by researching at the internet is because of cost, operational cost. Okay, so wind energy demands a lot of investments. You have a lot of operational costs also during the operation of this, and they are afraid of going for some technology that are not still that is not efficient enough for what they need, and that is not the good cost, you know.
Mhm.
So they are afraid of testing those things now. Okay, otherwise they have to send people over there, you know, if they don't wanna to use any technology, on-site technology for inspection. The other solution they have is to send people for doing inspections once a while, you know. So sending people over there, so they try to reduce as much as they can because they are afraid of, you know, having, you know, accidents. This is a very complicated operation. You have to, you know, you have to train people. You have to, it's really a sky worker, you know. He's working in the sky with ropes, and you know, it's just a lot of training that somebody has to has, and you have to bring those people, you know, far away from. So it's not a easy thing to do, you know. But the final conclusion of our work is that for sure, you know, and not monitoring at the end, it will cost more, right? That's why then we come in the following section with Vali presenting, you know, why monitoring is more interesting, and what are the technologies that we could consider for that purpose.
Thanks.
Isabelle.
Yes, I will have a question for the other CEO from Egypt, Walid. Regarding the monitoring solution, I was wondering if you had considered all the electronic waste that you're going to produce by putting lots of sensors and things and using drones to monitor your wind turbines. Actually, I was surprised that it was not mentioned either as an advantage for the not monitoring option from Ricardo, and not mentioned as a, you know, a negative point from the monitoring side.
Okay, if I can divide my answer in two parts. The first one, I will talk about the cost. At the beginning, using these sensors will cost us a lot of money. But if we look to the future and for long term, this cost will be less than if we don't use the sensors, because with the sensors we can detect the problems at the beginning before it becomes big problems. So when we have a small problem, the cost to solve this problem will be small. But if we don't have this type of sensors, the problems, we won't be able to know these problems, and this may cause a huge damage on the system, which will cost us a lot of money. So according to cost, using these sensors is important for a long time, and it will save a lot of money for us. But when we talk about the next part, what about the sensors when they become useless and we have to recycle them? For this part, there is solutions for using electronics or sensors that are made from from original materials that can be recycled easily. There is currently researches in this certain area. They are trying to replace using semiconductor materials like silicon by using materials that can be recycled easily. And according to the current results they have, these materials have good results like the one we had from semiconductors. So the IC design techniques now can depend on these materials, these recycled materials, which will be very important for us. So when these sensors become useless, we can recycle them easily. And this is what we are going to do. Why I didn't mention this point, because I try to concentrate only and focus on the blades, because blades represent for us the most important part of the turbine. So we need to find solution to protect these blades. But of course, sensing every part of the turbine is important.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes. Again,
Yes.
can I go ahead, Annie? Thank you. Walid, I think you brought a really good point, and something that I like that I didn't say to Ricardo is the fact that we need jobs. You know,
Yep.
if you have a park like that, you will have people working there, and like the people in the north or people insulated are very happy to have something to work on it, and it's a good money, and it's not the same if you have five turbines, wind turbines, or you have a big park of hundreds. So I think the point that interests me is the fact that you create jobs automatically on that, and this is good for us. The other thing is the use of the new technology. I like it in a certain way, but I'm always afraid. You got to bring everything. The technology, of course, it can be managed from very far, so it's something that we can handle. But I do not agree with all the techniques and technology that we use actually, because for example, you were talking about ice. Of course, it's our problem in the north. And the ice now, they can be wired, so you don't need a drone to do that. And by the way, drone is very expensive to manage. So if you have drones, maybe in the future it's going to be something very useful and not expensive, etc. But for now, I think it's a lot of money, of course. And I think that given the chance to make something that will be managed by the people, the locals, or the people of the area, will be definitively the right thing to do. So it is what I do agree with the monitoring more than not monitoring.
Okay, for this point, investment is the most important part for technology. Uh, as we pay a lot for research, we will have good results. And that's why I made it like a recycle, that as we have good profit, we can use some of this profit for research so that we can improve our monitoring techniques. In addition, I mentioned using of swarm robots. Swarm robots is a very important part in this topic. Why? Because as Ricardo mentioned that when humans try to repair this cracks in the blades, they have to go for height around 500 meters or less than this. I'm sorry, around 100 meters, which is a very long height. So and this is a high risk for humans. So instead of humans, we can replace this with swarm robots that can be carried on the drones. In addition, you said that the drones cost a lot of money currently. Yeah, but as we see, we can use it for different tasks, not just one task. We can use it to capture thermal images. We can use it to capture 2D images. We can use it to carry the swarm robots. In addition, if we are going to use drones in wind farm, we can use drones that works with batteries, not with fuel. So they can be charged from the electricity we generate from the wind turbine. So this will save money for us.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Does it answer your question, Yusef?
Yes, absolutely. More than that.
Okay, excellent.
And I learned that.
Isabel?
Yeah, my question was more of a technical question regarding, the drones and the water that they would carry to remove the ice. I was a bit skeptical. So what volume of water could a drone carry? And I remember we were talking, would it be hot water or just water? Anyway, I would like to have more details about that solution for ice removal.
Okay, for this point, using drones to remove ice, the problem the video doesn't work. But in the video, you can see that drones can be used to remove ice, not a huge amount of ice. If we just have a little amount of ice, so we don't need a lot of water to remove it. So we can make this every day. Every day we can use drones to remove, regularly. So this will be helpful for us. But if we have, of course, a huge amount of ice on the blades, we can't use water to remove this. And that's why we need monitoring, because with monitoring we can have a threshold for the ice. If it reaches a certain volume, we can start to use the drones to remove this ice.
Thank you for your answer. I understand. Thanks.
Thanks.
Actually, it's maybe one of the parts where, for me, I mean, first of all, the effort for the summit and your roles and team and your little face, your digital faces, I thought was really a good addition to your presentation. Actually, from what I remember from the Switch 1, presentation number 2 was better, less words, more images, more the frame, the visual part of it was clearer for me, was more interesting because I could listen to you, and just the visual part was better. Maybe 2 things. First of all, the question that I asked was, why is this solution more in what way is this solution creative? I'm sure you have an answer, but I didn't get it into the presentation because I don't know. I'm sure Youssef knows much more than I do why this is a creative solution, but because I don't know what exists right now, I can't have comparison, this is what it is and this is what we're suggesting. So la comparaison entre ce qui existe et la nouveauté, it was not explicit. So for me, I would have needed 1 slide or 2 slides or a little bit in every person that was presenting, just to tell me this is how we're doing it and this is how we could do it better, or this is how we're changing the way we're doing it right now. So that for me was missing a little bit. And the last part, it was just for what Isabelle was asking about the drones, and I liked Walid's answer that it doesn't really work right now, but maybe for me, that's the interesting part of a creative solution, is when you have bits and pieces that you do not, for now, I mean, for the team, for what you did in 2 days, to have bits and pieces where you think it's a good perspective, it's a good opportunity, but I mean, you did not have time to do the research, and it doesn't work right now. So if it doesn't work right now, it means that it's maybe something that will be creative just because it's something that does not exist in this way right now. So for me, it's really not a big issue to suggest something in your solution that is not available right now. Every time I mean, the shoes in Back to the Future that tie themselves together, they did not exist when they did the movie. Somebody took the shoes by hand under the floor to make them work. And it worked 20 years later when they went back and they gave the shoes to Michael J. Fox. So how to do it right now, we don't know, but we think it's an interesting avenue to explore. So this is an interesting piece of a creative solution. So don't be afraid, even if we're engineers, even if we like to have solutions that work and to know everything, when we say something, we know how it works, you can still leave a door open to have some, well, we found this, we don't know exactly how it could work, but it's something that we think should be added to the solution and would benefit from more effort, more research, and so on. So yeah, good, very, very nice job, guys. I mean, it's definitely a big step up from Switch 1, and happily there's still some improvement to be made for Switch 3. So I think it's all in all very positive.
That's
So
right. The talk show.
yeah,
No, it's a joke. But
absolutely. Well,
generally, I
I mean,
just want to add a point, Sophia, about what you just said, because the part of Bohau and Mina is our creative solution. So for sure, maybe it could be more detailed because we assume that people know what we hear during the presentation. But you're right, it could be well explained in that way or combined, because we play with the question. The question was about the recycling problem, and we said, oh, why should we go with the recycling? The first step is the reuse of the product. So that's why we went to how could we reuse the blade according to the propriety of the product, so the fiberglass and else. So we play with the question in that perspective.
but that was
About the
good. That was
reuse.
good.
Yeah.
Your suggestions of reuse of the products with the chairs and the playgrounds and stuff, that exists, right?
Not sure. We I assume a company will be creative and have some parts. But how try to find images to bring our ideas. And some
Okay.
images
Because
demonstrate.
that was exactly my question. Listening to you guys and looking at the images, I was not sure if it existed right now as it was and you were just reporting what people do, or if you were really suggesting something that is not made right now. I wasn't sure where it was, because the research part and the solution part, I guess were so mashed up together that I wasn't sure what was new from what was how it is right now. So I'm sure your ideas were new and were already there. It was just a question of better putting the words into it to show us this is how it is and this is what we're suggesting. Mina, you wanted to, you wanted to have your point.
Had a point.
We actually have this discussion with Bao because mentioning that is it necessary to repeat this slide is exactly creative solution, and we think that it's obvious. It's not necessary to mention that. So how it's our create solution. So blah blah blah. So we think that is enough to represent our solution. But as you mentioned that it's better to emphasize more that we can compare our solution to other methods that already used. I have some comparing methods in my slides, as you may remember, but maybe we can have more focus on what's the difference between my methods and if it's applicable, how it affects on the sustainable methods and economy of the economy cycles and all the factors I should mention, but I didn't mention about other aspects, of course, but I think I have a very short comparison between my methods and previous methods, but maybe we should have more focus and also Paul can some more focus on the difference between.
Well, you have to remember, it's like doing your thesis. You have to remember, it's like in your thesis, if you do a PhD or a master's degree, there's a part in that you have to describe and display what is the originality of the work that you are presenting. So I'm just exactly in that position where you have to just describe or explain or make yourself clear on what is you're adding to what's there. So for me that don't know at all wind turbines, everything you told me today could have been something that already existed, because I haven't done the research and I kind of don't know where to, I mean, I've got some pieces that I saw from you guys that were kind of suggesting new pathways for your landfill and this part, but creativity is hard to get or to understand sometimes. So if you make it more obvious, then it's less work for people that are listening to you and become convinced of your solutions because you've said it out loud.
Okay, I have to add another thing.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you. I completely agree.
Youssef, I assume you have a question for us.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to add something to what Sophie have said. Using swarm robots for repairing the faults instead of humans, and also using 3D model of the wind turbine to calculate the volume of ice and to detect cracks. These techniques doesn't exist. They are still under research. So this is
Good.
another point. Yeah.
So just to add this information when you're presenting it, and you say these technologies are in the research phase, but we found them interesting, and to add them to this, and you can even show where these project or research are used right now, what made you think of them, and to add them to your idea. So it makes the connection between we found this in this domain or in this field, and we thought it would be interesting to connect it to our field. That just makes, we follow your thought, and it just increases the validation of this does not exist right now in this situation, but we found this and it could definitely be applied to this situation. So this makes all your research connected, and we can follow you better.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Youssef, yes.
Yes, I was going somewhere, but since Sophie was talking about that, it's very interesting actually. It turned something else that I didn't expect. Look, this side, this technical side, honestly, when you were talking, guys, I didn't think that these things don't exist because I use them. What Walid was saying about the drone and the fractures, I use them. We use them already. With the heat, when the rocks, we can see the fractures just by using a magnet. You know, it's a electromagnetic magnet, and we use this to see the fraction. So this technology exists, but she's right. We have to make the difference between something exists, something doesn't exist. In another side, I want to go further a little bit with the environment things, because what Sarah said concerning the how we recycle these things. There is, when, for example, a community who, or people or country who do that with this project, they want to have a contract with you guys to recycle this. So we are not going to think about this point since you didn't think about it. So it's very important that you come with a solution that's viable. You do it on the land or you do it somewhere else. This is something that to I don't know if you thought about this, Sarah, and I don't know if you brought it in this fact or this way to think that, okay, if I do such a thing, I have to think about recycling myself, and I have to bring something to recycle, and which satisfy the people who is going to receive the project, and the people that they're going to receive all the material that we brought from this place, which is not easy to recycle. When I heard Boa and Mina talking about that, I said, well, it's much more complicated. So I don't know if Sarah has something to say about that.
Yeah, so that's very good point, because yeah, as you said, the current recycling techniques all have their own problems, like the materials, the components are not all recyclable. So some of the methods that we were thinking, as Mina said, was to maybe come up with a solution so we can use some
more recyclable components in the wind turbine itself. So from scratch, we fabricate all the components with some recyclable material. Yeah, that's something that we were thinking of doing maybe in future.
But who's gonna do that?
And maybe in Canada, it's still legal to put the waste of the materials into landfills. Maybe the legislation can also force companies and researchers to think more deeply into finding solutions that are more environmental friendly and sustainable. So these are something that I can mention.
It makes sense, and this takes me straight to what Mina was saying. Mina, you were talking about resin. I don't think resin. You gotta think about that very good, because if you are in such areas where you have a lot of wind and the nature is clean and there is animals living there, what the impact of the resins on the land, what the impact of resins on the animals are gonna come around this, and the animals are gonna, the turbines, we can find not geese, but les cigognes. I don't know the name in English. Sorry about that. Quelqu'un le sait? Les cigognes. Now these big birds.
Birds that bring the babies.
They can put a nest there, and so it's and they can impacted by that. Of course, we're talking about few individuals, but it is important, even if you have one kind of animals who can be impacted. So when you get solution like that, which I like it, and actually I find what Boa was saying about the recycling, it's fantastic solutions. Honestly, it's really fantastic. Is it possible now that Sophie said about the connection about this and that? Did you really thought how you're gonna do it? Again, this is for your three guys. How are you gonna do that? I mean, you gotta present a plan to the people and said, hey, we're going to do it that way, and it's going to be 100% perfect and then 100% clean, because we are talking about clean energy, isn't it?
That's true.
So I'll leave you if you have a comment on that.
Yeah. Yes, Boha, go ahead.
The recycling and reusing solutions that we proposed, most of them are not possible for now. I don't know if you recall, there was one image where there's a playground, and there was so many used turbines and blades for kids to play. That was already exist. That one already exists, but the other ones don't exist. We just put some similar images to present our idea, but we need new like mechanical processing process or chemical processing process to better process the used turbines, of course.
Good point. At this moment, I don't know, Pierre-Jean, if you have a philosophical question for us.
No, I don't. I have many questions, some of them philosophical. I'm just going to start by saying that conference format was really cool. I'm going to dissent dangerously, this dangerous dissent here with Sophie, who's literally the expert on creativity. But still, I'm going to go there. I found that indeed, perhaps due to my scientific background, because this was a conference, usually we talk about state of the art of where things are and where things are going. So it kind of seemed to me obvious that whatever was there was new implicitly. Now that I've said my dissent, I ended with implicitly, and indeed, if it would be explicit, of course, it would be like, oh, well, that's new. Now, a few comments before I go to the questions, because you've covered basically every ground, and I don't think you could have done this, every aspect, every dimension of the problem that was given to you. I don't think you could have done it in a standard linear presentation. By just making it a conference format, you could hop from one to the other. It was natural. It wasn't like, well, okay, how do I transit from slide 1 to slide B? No, you went from a person to, and the role playing was great. Although I don't like CEOs. No, that's a joke. When it comes to First Nations, this is just food for thought. Depending on the community you're going to address, you may want to go to the band council and the band leader. But I say that very often. Band councils are a colonial structure. This is part of the Indian Act. And when you're aware of that, you know that certain communities don't really listen to their band council because they are basically the government of Canada. And in some communities, quite the contrary, the band council has complete legitimacy within the community. And if you think that because there's 11 peoples on what we now call Quebec, plus the Inuits, if you think that, oh, well, if these Cree react this way when we talk about the band council, I go to another Cree community, I can apply the same system. No, it's almost like you're in a different country each time. So that's food for thought. But approaching the people, of course, with an open hand is a good idea. When you come and you want to discuss your project, there's one thing you can start easily with, since the impact is on the land, is acknowledging that you know nothing about the land and that they do. And if they were willing to just share with you, which they are usually generous with their knowledge about the land, maybe you could then decide together if a project could be done there. From this switch, I realized that it might be a tougher sell for people up north, where Yusuf works, and he pointed that out. Should all know that there's no trees there, and solar panels are close to the ground, and that's one thing. But one of those ginormous windmill, I'm pretty sure that up north, even if you're 20 kilometers away, you can still see that thing sticking out of the ground because that's the only thing that's upright. Those are a few thoughts. But I like that you are mindful of non-asymmetrical partnerships. You want to say something?
If I can just point something out. You said that wind turbine up so you can see them, but at the same time, if you talk about solar panel, you have to shave a lot of trees to cover the area, but wind turbine, you just need the circle that's on the ground and then you go up. So I feel like for the forest, it would be better to use the wind. Yes, for a visual aspect, it's not as beautiful and you can see it from far, but you're going to shave less trees than if you use the solar panel.
No, you're quite right, but the trees are in the south and there's no tree in the north. So we're completely agreeing, but thank you for saying that. While in the way up north, like in Iqaluit, for instance, you may want to use solar panels because otherwise you get a stick on the ground. But in the forest area, yes, indeed, perhaps having windmills is better because indeed you don't need to shave trees.
Also, another point, the problem with solar panel in the north is that ice and snow, you need to constantly remove it if you want. Already solar panel have an efficiency of like 5 to 8%. So any layer of snow or ice on it is going to reduce this efficiency even more, break over time. So
I
feel like
would
wind
love
is a
to
better
discuss
option.
this with you a little further. It so happens that I know a bit about those up in Iqaluit, I think. And there's one benefit of being that far up north is, yes, indeed, in the winter, snow, blah, blah, blah. In the summer, it's 24/7. So you collect and you just put it, you just charge batteries and then you use them. But, there's problems with everything, but let's stay on topic. Thank you, Rodrigue. Wonderful. Okay. I love the idea of having children parks, playgrounds, and houses being built with spent windmills. For one thing, we have a housing crisis that's not going to get better, and children need playground. We'd like to see our horrible parks that are just basically glorified lawns look a little more like something where people can play, the small people, the short ones, go to first grade. So I really liked that idea. There is a question, and it may be an unfair one, but I'm still going to ask it because you presented things, and I seem to recognize some life cycle analysis flow charts right there. What's the impact of recycling versus burying, for instance, or burning? The image of the burning turbines was so impressive. It looked cataclysmic. I feel like I was watching War of the Worlds, the one with Tom Cruise, not the original, which I like better, but it's okay. When you take, for instance, energy companies in general are extremely prudent in changing things, and you pointed that out quite clearly. That's very good. But they're also usually interested in the bottom line, period. A t-shirt, a cotton t-shirt you can buy anywhere in Canada will have traveled 5 countries before getting here. At that point, it cost about $4 to buy, and you print something on it in-house locally, and it becomes a $15 to $20 shirt, but it has traveled into 5 different countries. Clearly, making it locally would spend less fuel transporting this from left to right in Asia and etc. I mean, it's amazing. Those shirts have seen, before they're sold, they've seen more countries than I did in my life. So the idea is that the bottom line is more important than the life cycle, because the difference in price would be huge. It's not like you would buy a shirt at $21, you would buy it at $70, and so nobody would buy it. There's a question of financial viability, but life cycle analysis right now does not consider things like, if we continue with our practices, there's climate change, and then there's, like we've seen recently, hurricanes that are becoming more frequent, more violent, more intense, flooding in New York and the southern states of the US. This is happening at a rate that is far more important than it used to be. And that has a cost. When we hear that there's been this many $1 billion of damage, we hear it every week. That has a cost, and that cost is hard to integrate in why we should do things the way you guys are proposing. How do you think, and I said that could be an unfair question, how do you think you can integrate climate change as part of the cost of not doing what you propose? Anyone can answer. If no one answers, I'm going to cry. I can't hear you well.
If nobody does, I will, eh?
Okay, so Pierre-Jean, could you repeat again the question? We are wondering.
I need to repeat the question. Okay, so how, I'll make it the shortest possible. given that climate change has a financial cost, and it's not a financial cost of a couple of dollars. It's billions of dollars each time there is an event, and there is not a week without an event. And we're just talking about here because the news don't tell us what's the impact over there, over here, back in Asia, back in Africa. We don't know about those. We know about here, what we now call North America. And those costs are in the billion every week. How do you integrate this? Or how would you propose to integrate that cost of not doing anything into your financial analysis to say, well, then we need to do this? Because Walid pointed out that you need investment and it may be significant in order to monitor. But when you consider the impact of not doing it, including climate change, then it becomes something far more financially viable. How would you go about doing this?
Yeah, I may answer in 1 second. Okay, so in fact, the short answer will be that we need to identify criteria to make our decision, and this is what we use to make this project too, because we identify what are the values of the people. Will it be more financial or more social? Will it be more important because it's a green energy? Or should we consider the fact that it has an impact on local communities? So the fact here that we have to identify the criteria will help us to say, okay, should we mobilize for the climate adaptation or climate change? And if yes, what are we going to prioritize? So it's not a specific answer I'm giving here. I'm just wondering, because we are already at 4:34, so I would like to make sure everyone is okay with the time. Larry is not here, so I could not invite him to share a question. He just left. So, but Isabelle, I don't know if you have another point before ending the session.
So we're done with the questions, I think.
Apparently, also, if you leave me the mic, we can be here till 6, no problem.
I know.
Okay.
I know you enough for that. So maybe we can go now to concluding remarks. We wanted to offer a space for Larry, but he's not at his computer at the moment. So in terms of concluding remark, I would like to congratulate the student for their hard and very interesting work. Yeah, wonderful guys. I really enjoyed the summit format. Like Pierre-Jean said, it was nice to have all these profiles of experts like CEOs and researchers and all these people. So it was really surprising first. At the first slide, I went, wow, that's nice. That's very interesting. I found that was a creative way to present your work today. So congratulations. And the content was all there, like Jean mentioned. Very wide view of, I mean, all the contribution of all the different experts that were contributed to switch number 2. You could find a way to integrate the different important part of wind turbine technology and management. So very interesting and very fructuous work, I would say. So I would like to thank Youssef and Sophie and Pierre-Jean for joining us today and asking a very interesting question and doing very relevant comments. So there is Larry. I think that's all for today. We will meet again for switch number 3 in January, and enjoy the rest of the weekend and also the US Open final if you like tennis. I think it started already like half an hour ago, so maybe some of you are switching screen. Oh, Sophie has a comment.
It was late. It was late, so it just started.
Okay.
Oh, that's it. Let's run through those then.
So thank you, everyone, and see you soon.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone. Good work. Thank you.